If you haven't planned anything for Halloween and are feeling a little bit lonely this spooky season, then you should definitely play these scary games on Xbox Game Pass. Because, you know, if you do, you might not feel so alone anymore. Ahoy folks, Craig signing in for Pure Xbox, and here are 13 of the scariest games to play on Xbox Game Pass this Halloween. You know the feeling when it's not the presence of darkness that's scary, it's actually what lurks within it that holds the true fear? Well, Masters of this art is Frictional Games' Amnesia series, which, just like the creepy bloodlusting monsters that skulk around after you from the shadows, there's a lot of them on Xbox Game Pass. Amnesia the Collection, which holds 2 terrifying romps through a desolate castle and steampunked industrial factory with an additional DLC pack, or Amnesia Rebirth, a dark and twisted horror adventure through the Algerian desert. But more recently, and most importantly, Amnesia The Bunker. Survive the horror of a relentless nasty monster out for your flesh in a World War I setting, armed with a very noisy wind-up flashlight sure to grab the attention of your aggressor every time you turn it on. Stay in the light to solve the puzzles and mysteries locked inside one of the most terrifying and stressful video games out there. What's more terrifying than hearing the rusted purrs of a blood-soaked chainsaw gradually getting louder as a terrifying figure wearing the fleshy remains of another person's face upon their own makes a beeline straight towards you? Oh, gives me the chills, it does. The iconic 1974 horror film The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is on Xbox in the form of a multiplayer horror experience similar to the likes of Gun Interactive's previous titled Friday the 13th, where players go head-to-head in a game of life and death. Take control of the notorious Slaughter family, including the masked mass murderer himself, to seek out their escaped victims and finish the job. Or, if you're one of said unlucky victims, race against the mortal clock to navigate the infamous family house, gas station, or slaughterhouse to escape before you bleed out. Or worse, suffer the fatal consequences of being caught. When Tango Gameworks isn't shadow-dropping top-tier rhythm games during Xbox showcases, they're instead drop-deading? Drop-deading? Yes, drop-deading unsuspecting victims from the shadows instead. The Evil Within 1 and 2 are locked and loaded and ready for you on Xbox Game Pass. Step into the shoes of Sebastian Castellanos, a rough and ready detective with a painful history who suffered the loss of his 5-year-old daughter. Our whiskey-fueled cop is tasked with solving a gruesome spree of supernatural murders. However, it's not long until this case gets creepy, and Sebastian is forcibly hooked up into a twisted alternate reality full of gruesome monsters and hellish nightmares. Basically, The Evil Within is like a messed up matrix where the monsters that torment you are constructed by your deepest, darkest fears. So if you fancy a scrappy and scary fight for survival, The Evil Within 1 and 2 are definitely worth checking out. Because Halloween is right around the corner, I think now is the perfect time to get unapologetically gross. And that's why we're suggesting that you try out Scorn, a disgusting and gory, horrid nightmare of a game that you can play. Oh lord, I feel like I want to be sick. The world of Scorn feels like a maze of gruesome puzzles and challenges that not only test your stomach, but your wits and your brains too. When you're not holding it together through some of the visceral gag moments, you'll need to locate living weapons to protect yourself from unsympathetic monsters. But be warned, ammo is limited, meaning not every beast gets a bullet if you want to survive. Make sure you're ready to cower in fear in the shadows and slip past dangerous creatures undetected. But genuinely, this game is just gross. Zombies, zombies, zombies! Well, parasitic undead ridden, technically. But what faff? These are zombies, and you get to shoot so many of them in Back 4 Blood. This gory 4-player co-op shooter from Turtle Rock Studios, the minds behind the iconic Left 4 Dead series, are back with a twist on the zombie horde formula with the introduction of roguelike card elements. Instead of the traditional choose your character, pick a weapon, shoot, smack, and dead, players are instead tasked with deck building to buff their chosen playstyles how they see fit. I remember using my glorious deck to swat away hordes of ridden zombies with a melee build that just never ran out of stamina and regened health every time a swing of my bat landed a crushing blow to the hordes. Although Back 4 Blood didn't quite live up to the hype Left 4 Dead fans placed on the 2021 release, it's still a great and gory time by yourself or with friends. Best get on SIGNALIS before it's gone, because this retro-inspired sci-fi survival horror will leave Xbox Game Pass October 31st. As of recording this video, I'm actually playing through it right now, and if you're a fan of the older PS1 style horror games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, then you'll love this. Set in a dystopian future where humanity has unearthed a deep dark secret, you must move from room to room, escaping horrific creatures and solving puzzles as a technician robot, or replica as they're known, searching for the truth and their lost memories. The retro cathode ray tube or CRT filter that makes the game feel rounded and rough, like being on an old TV screen, looks like a real classic, and having enjoyed my experience with it so far, I think it feels like a bit of a classic too. This next one is straight up royalty when it comes to the online asymmetric survival horror experience. Claiming the killer vs victim crown is Behavior Interactive's Dead by Daylight. Choose which side of the 4v1 spectrum you'd like to be on, whether it be one of the 33 killers, each with their own unique playstyles to master the craft of murder, or take your pick of 39 survivors to fix generators and escape with your life. The live service support for Dead by Daylight has been fantastic. You get to play as survivors like Resident Evil's Leon S. Kennedy or real-world actor Nicolas Cage, as well as iconic killers like Scream's Ghostface and Silent Hill's Pyramid Head. After years of content updates, DLC, community feedback, and a thriving player base, it's just hard not to recommend Dead by Daylight. Whilst we're not sure about the State of Undead Labs' third entry into the State of Decay series of games, we are sure that both the first and second State of Decay games are on Xbox Game Pass and are well worth checking out. Once again, we're living in a world where civilization has fallen and the undead plague the streets. What makes State of Decay 2 great is you're almost not expected to survive. Because, well, you're tasked with building a community in a world where humanity is now the minority against the undead, taking control of many different survivors, all with their own strengths and weaknesses. So don't be disheartened when your favorite zombie-slaying mayor of Survivorville gets torn to shreds and massacred by ghoulish zombies. Hack your way through a gutsy 10-hour campaign while scavenging supplies for your camp and take back your community either alone or with your friends in multiplayer co-op. It's not exactly scary, but it is super spooky! Whether it's scary or not, Vampire Survivors is the perfect time sink this spooky season. The pick-up-and-play nature of this survival roguelike indie phenomenon is packed full of super simple and addictive gameplay where the main objective is literally just to survive, hence Vampire Survivors, surviving the vampires that endlessly hoard around you, desperate for their sip of your blood. Don't give them your blood. Survive! It's not too long ago that we also got 4-player couch co-op too, so you and 3 of your bestest Blade or Buffy cosplaying pals can sit right there with you as you level up, upgrade your offensive weapons, and do the merry vampiric avoidance jig, and all together now, survive! Survive! Ah, lovely. SOMA is another spooky romp through dark and creepy environments because, well, it was mastercrafted by the devs responsible for the Amnesia games. Yep, Frictional Games can't help but make super scary games. Creating castles and factories for the claustrophobic Deep Blue, SOMA takes us deep down into a once sophisticated research outpost in the North Atlantic Ocean. There's no taking a break to step outside for a breather when things get creepy in this one. No, you're stuck down there. Shortly before all of this though, having survived a near-fatal car accident, our protagonist suffers a head injury and blacks out, waking up nearly 100 years into the future. All alone in an unfamiliar underwater facility with no idea how, why, or when you got there, you must do your best to avoid the monsters that lurk below and solve the mysteries that keep you from the truth. Running through the streets of Tokyo is a surefire way to keep you fit, especially when you're exercising. Take to the rainy streets of Ghostwire Tokyo to dampen some spirits with an assortment of elemental powers to obliterate the supernatural. Sure, we've had plenty of monsters, zombies, and vampires so far, so it's only fair that we spend some time banishing some ghostly spirits. Ghostwire Tokyo is a gorgeous FPS with a pretty gripping narrative at its core, but at times it can double up as a gorgeous yet creepy walking simulator. Ghostwire's realization of Tokyo is immersive and beautiful, and when it rains, oh boy, does that ray tracing make the neon streets pop. It's funny because at the time of writing this video, I was actually going to recommend that you play through the original 360 Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 trilogy, which you should absolutely still do, but it's just been confirmed that the Dead Space remake is also coming to Game Pass, or is already on Game Pass, it just depends on when you're watching this. Dead Space is a master of sci-fi horror. You're placed in the clunky boots of a run-of-the-mill space engineer called in to repair a mining ship that's gone dark, the iconic USG Ishimura. What lies in wait for you through the claustrophobic corridors is the nightmarish and deadly necromorph monsters, ready to tear you limb from limb unless you do it to them first. Armed with a selection of repurposed plasma cutters, carefully dismember your predators if you hope to survive, because let me tell you this, if they get close enough, you're a goner. Hear me out. I know Redfall is practically abandoned on Steam at this point, and I'd be surprised if it hasn't been on Xbox too, but Redfall finally got that 60 FPS update on Xbox Series consoles, and you've got to think to yourself, could now be the time to gather some pals and dive into a tale of cults and vampires? Redfall follows the story of a peaceful seaside town in Massachusetts that falls victim to their vampiric overlords. You can either join them or have the blood sucked right out your veins. Well, that is if you're not willing to bite back, as they called it in the PR marketing. I mean, if you bite a vampire and consume their blood intentionally or accidentally, like those are the risks when biting a vampire back, would you join Team Vampire by mistake? Either way, there's a reason this is 13th on the list, because it may still suck, but who knows? 13 may be your lucky number. Seeing as though you're still here, then why don't you tell me your scariest moment in gaming, because I'd love to read them in the comments. Be sure to check out Pure Xbox for all the best lists on Xbox, as well as subscribing to the channel here as well. All that's left to say is bye-bye for now. Count Chocula!